I'm presenting on my Diversity, Discrimination, and Prejudice paper. My topic was focusing on the American military. While through doing the paper, although the idea of American military men and women oftentimes paints this picture of support and heroism, it can be deceiving and sometimes often untrue. Military servicemen and women oftentimes are fed the idea of lifelong support, but are faced with things such as racism, threatening injuries, mental health issues, environmental deficiencies, financial barriers, or hardships due to their time in service, and the various systems that are put in place to support them can then, in turn, jeopardize them. Many individuals who serve or have served can tell you the various levels of injustices or severe loopholes that the American government, the agency that employs our soldiers, that should be dedicated to serving these men and women, they've put in place, holding these veterans in kind of this never-ending spiral of either mistrust or deception throughout their agency time. When researching for this paper, I didn't have to look very far to see the social injustices that these people are facing. Besides the in-the-face journalism and the hot topic of soldiers, heroism, and things like that that are constantly in the news is also plagued with many stories of homelessness for veterans, financial hardships, increased mental health crises, and it really doesn't, it just talks about these crises. It doesn't really talk about the systems of checks and balances and how to fix that. And you start really seeing a trend, whether it's the systems put in place like USERRA or the Uniform Service Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, or our Veterans Affairs Association, our VA. These are government-run agencies. They're designed to protect those who serve, but they're failing our military men and women. Oftentimes they bury our soldiers with paperwork or loopholes or even unfair treatment due to racial or cultural stigmatisms. These systems drag this community of soldiers and veterans through disappointments and oftentimes things that they were lied to about. Our interviews consisted of two military individuals, a male and a female. Both were active at one point. One is now retired. Both of these veterans had seen various sides and the shades of gray within these agencies. There was promised supports to both sides that we interviewed, and both have seen through different eyes how these services are directly affecting the men and women they're designed to protect. Whether it's through our one interview was a gentleman who designs organizations and provides like community support through our veterans associations within communities, or an actual social worker who is ex-military and works currently for a VA system to help soldiers with casework and such like that. They touched on things like reemployment after deployment, unexpected loopholes, the crisis of mental health and how it's growing, the financial crisis that soldiers often face upon returning, discrimination, and these lack of services that there is, and how both sides and both interviews stressed the need for more. And they were both able to pinpoint these government systems. They're well known, but they're also well known for failing our veterans. It does paint a picture of a less than favorable outcome for veterans and their families. So when I was writing this, in order to be able to understand, I oftentimes reference back to the Rosenblum book, The Meaning of Difference. And the one particular section, it says, in order to understand those who serve their needs, you must first evaluate and assess their master status and the factors or needs they bring to the table, just like in the reading. When focusing on military men and women, this can include a large list of servicing factors, as military veterans can come from all walks of life. It really is the one true profession that really holds no boundaries, no outlying factors for employment. You really, in order to be a serviceman or woman for this country, it really just takes a desire. There's pretty much jobs for anybody. When you're understanding that, you also need to understand the social structures that these individuals come from, and the truth that at any given time a soldier can hold multiple and various levels of, whether it's, their race, their sex, their social class, their culture, their kinship, their occupation, their age. Across the board, military men and women are seeing these fluctuating rates, and you can't just look at it as a level playing field. It has to be looked at as the multiple planes and levels that they bring with them, and layers. If you don't address this, this can be really crucial to the services or supports that you try to provide, because you could be forgetting about certain factors that play very important pieces or roles in this level that you're kind of unboxing at one point. So looking at the picture as a whole, I think is super important, and it's directly referenced in The Meaning of Difference by Rosenblum. So these agencies are designed to build supports, and they're actively working against this building supports. They don't look at these larger pictures, and that breaks down trust and can leave many men and women with lack of assistance. And it really starts making them think twice about these internal systems and if they want to trust them or seek them out, even to begin with. American military recommendations for interventions. You have to look at this as a social worker from the plane of the civilian world, because interventions at a VA level are going to look extremely different because it is a government-run agency. But if you're looking at it truly from a social worker standpoint, my interventions that I would suggest, number one, would be work with past military professionals or personnel who really are experienced in military supports and services. I would also utilize online resources. Oftentimes, because of the nature of this type of programming, they change very quick. Their policies, procedures, benchmarks, things like that, or they reevaluate them. And due to the nature of this, sometimes getting your information from reliable online resources, such as USARA online, employment, VA standards online. If you look up these reliable resources and then you look into their contacts and call for assistance, I would suggest that would be your first point. Oftentimes online they're going to talk you in circles, but really trying to connect with someone via these online portals, I think, could be helpful. I do think the VA, despite holding a form of discrimination or prejudice, can still be an avenue of support for veterans, but I really think you have to, as a social work, vet the process. I think you need to start looking into, if you're going to serve men and women who are service related or armed forces related, you really need to learn and start educating yourself through conversation or communication where the loopholes are and actually where the benefits are for them, because oftentimes you'll realize that the ends really don't justify the means. Speak to those who have served. Most military men and women can inform you of the steps that they missed or that they wish they had done differently. You can speak to sources for information that can give you firsthand accounts. I mean, there's several different agencies, but there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of men and women who have served and all have different experiences, and learning those experiences, I think, is crucial. And then do your research. Find out what is and what is not shared and how it can benefit or hurt the overall picture for a soldier and what their life can look like, with the understanding that the military is often shrouded kind of in a secrecy level of, don't ask, don't tell, or don't divulge too much, because oftentimes it can lead to different resolve or outcomes for the soldiers. During writing this paper, I often found myself wishing I had interviewed a VA official or someone from USARA, understanding that USARA is a Washington agency, but really going to my local VA and seeking out someone to interview. I found myself asking oftentimes if the people who serve at the VA feel, because they usually have a kinship or themselves had served, if they feel that their service really is in line with what individuals need. Do they really feel that their service and time is reputable and worthwhile for veterans? Or do they feel very much like many other servicemen and women, and that the system is failing our veterans, and that the state, but because the state of the agency is a government agency, that their advocacy is limited, and it's more about continuing to have a job because they don't want to be one of the statistics and numbers. I do feel that there's distinct pitfalls in the lines of support. I've seen it firsthand through my family. I do, however, believe that these pitfalls are really going to be hard to address via government-run agencies. I think this dynamic is plagued with a flawed system, and I think it's steeped in conflict of interest. This agency, such as the VA, is designed to, with the idea that soldiers come first and putting the needs of soldiers first. However, it is governed by the same agency that thinks about itself first and also employs soldiers. So there's a system of checks and balances that is completely flawed. So I do think that the pitfalls will be really hard to tackle. Looking forward to later projects would be something like, could the VA ever be an unbiased agency? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I do think that would be worth looking into. So that is my discrimination, diversity, and prejudice paper so far in a nutshell. All right, thank you.